It is here. Nikon just released firmware version 3.0 for the ZF, and I think we all know what that means. We've been waiting and asking for this for months now, ever since Nikon added support for custom imaging recipes to the retro-styled ZF. And they listened because now we have the ability to add film grain in camera. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I'm Chris Hagan, a video producer and photographer in Portland, Oregon, and this added feature is just about everything we could ask for in terms of how it's implemented, how customizable it is, and how it looks. Nikon USA was kind enough to send me a camera with the beta firmware to give a real-world preview of the grain feature, but it's just not gonna arrive in time. However, they did let me in on a few notes about the firmware, including one thing that gives a real nod to shooting real film. I'll get to that in a second, but the way this is gonna work on the ZF, and I'm showing you in the Nikon NX Studio software, is first enabling film grain and then giving you a few different options to choose from. You've got the intensity, which ranges from 1 to 6, least intense to most intense, and then you can select the size of the grain as well, small, medium, or large. If you want to compare that to how Fujifilm's grain works in camera, they give you a choice of roughness where you can choose strong or weak, and size where you get large or small. So technically, more options are available with the ZF than Fujifilm. But this is where things get interesting, and this is certainly something I'll take a closer look at before doing a longer video on the subject. But Nikon says with their implementation of grain in camera, each shot will produce a different grain pattern, similar to how film functions organically. The intensity and size that you select stays the same, but it's not just a blanket grain lazily laid over the top of the image. Each photo should be unique. What I'm curious about is whether or not we'll notice a difference from shot to shot, but do let me know what you think of some of these examples in the comments. Now, speaking of that, since this just came out, I don't have any shots with the grain applied through the camera yet, but all of the photos I've shown in this video are straight out of camera with just the grain applied through Nikon's NX Studio software. So it's very, very close, if not basically the same as what we'll see from the ZF applied in camera. And on that note, I also like that the grain settings are applied separate from the imaging recipe. Since you need to make changes to your recipes on your computer, it would be a pain if every time you wanted to adjust the grain setting, you had to update your entire recipe. So all around, on paper, it looks like everything's been well thought out. More important though, how do you think it looks? I can hear the purists out there saying grain alone doesn't make an image look like film, but I do think that it adds a finishing touch to photos straight out of the camera that allow them to feel more authentic. The sweet spot for me in the few photos I've applied it to has been 2 or 3 in terms of grain intensity, but I'm still figuring out which size I like best. And honestly, since most of my straight out of camera photos usually only go as far as social media, a lot will probably depend on how they look there as well. To be determined. As soon as I can get out and get a few more shots up with the new firmware, I'll have another video. I know a lot of you out there are skeptical of firmware updates, so if you do have any questions, let me know in the comments and I'm happy to share my experience. Thanks as always for watching and subscribing, and I'll see you again soon.